my clock. As a reminder, the executive committee meeting this evening is being recorded. So I just want to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded. I want to go through the process of the introduction of committee members. And so I'll start first. My name is Lenny Singletary. I'm the chair of Community Board 2. We'll introduce but the following roles of the seats. So we'll start with the first vice chair, second vice chair, and then the chairs and co-chairs of the respective committees in alphabetical order. So first vice chair.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Leonard Jordan. I'm the first vice chair, Community Board 2, and the chairperson of the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Good evening. It's Clark Dollar-Bringer. I'm the second vice chair of the board and the co-chair of the Parks.
Quickly, I'm Jessica Thurston, secretary.
Bill Flanoy, chair of the Economic Development and Employment Committee.
Carlton Gordon, Landmarks Chair, Landmarks Land Use.
Juliet Cullen-Chung, Chair of Transportation and Public Safety.
Cheryl Gelbs, Vice Chair, Transportation and Public Safety.
Betty Flybush, Chair of Youth Education, Cultural Affairs.
Dorothea Thompson Manning, Co-Chair of Education and Cultural Affairs.
Irene Janner, Co-Chair of Land Use Landmarks.
Hi. Is this Marina?
Brendan Smith, I'm the chair of Health, Environment, Social Services.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for the introduction. I'll entertain an approval for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Jessica, I'm going to let you figure out who's who.
Thank you.
And has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from June 22nd from the last exec committee meeting? Are there any edits or corrections? Okay, great. Should you find some additional comments at the conclusion of the meeting, feel free to email our secretary. And if you would, send an email to the district manager to the board office. So let's jump into the agenda. The fourth item on the agenda, committees for action. We have first up, Health, Environment, and Social Services Committee. There are some state liquor authority license applications. And we'll start with the chair, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Singletary, and good evening, everybody. There were 3 liquor licenses that we heard at the last committee meeting in early August. I'll start with the first one is 264 Carlton Avenue, Los Dos Hermanos. This was the only one of the 3 that there was some community opposition expressed in respect of. To summarize, 264 Carlton is located on Carlton Avenue between DeKalb and Myrtle, pretty close to the corner of DeKalb Avenue. The application is for a tapas restaurant with an outdoor area that's in the front within the property boundaries. The previous tenant, which I believe was called Smooch, was open since 2005 and had closed recently. The menu is supposed to include salads, tapas, and tacos. They're going to employ about 5 people. Notable about this application is that there were 4 letters of support and a much greater quantity, probably about 10 or 11 letters of opposition. It seems that the representative from this, the owner of this location, also operates a liquor store, which is on the corner of this block, and there were concerns expressed from the community about the operation the liquor store, I guess from previous experience, and there were some pictures even shared with our committee about previous activities that had occurred at the liquor store. Specifically, there was a bench that was set up outside of the liquor store. According to the owner, it was not his bench, but people would go to the liquor store and use the bench to congregate and drink liquor that was purchased at the liquor store. There were additionally allegations that the liquor store employees were not wearing masks, violating social distancing guidelines, and that the people who would congregate outside the liquor store would become very noisy and litter the premises and be disruptive in the community. It was presented to us that the bench had been removed, and the owner indicated that he wanted to be that he wanted to be cooperative and engage with other members of the community. Notable also, I think, is the fact that there didn't seem to be any prior engagement between the owner with the block association or the surrounding community. I do note that Ms. Churchin made it clear at our meeting that the district office was no longer requiring that signatures be gathered for applications during the COVID time because of the social distancing components that come up in that regard. But there definitely seemed to be some concern, and over the course of the meeting, several residents expressed their concerns about the liquor store and about this operator opening an establishment. In response, the owner indicated that he would completely adhere to social distancing and mask wearing guidance. And the original time for closing the outdoor space, which was originally proposed at 12 midnight, was shortened to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, which is more in keeping generally with the standards that we would like to see from outdoor service in really any community, and particularly this block, which seems to be a very residential block by nature. So with after a long discussion and lots of questions and points back and forth, the ultimate vote on this was, I believe, 4 in favor, 2 opposed, and no abstentions. The opposition, of which I was a member, was largely based in concern for whether from performance with the liquor store, but it's really a virtue of what you believe in that regard. I think, you know, the applicant did express a desire to be cooperative and engaging with the community, and that should be noted as well. So that was the first application that we heard. That was approved 420. Second application that we heard was 78 Rockwell Place. This is entitled Project Noir. The owner presented to us about this place. It's been open for about 2 years. They're trying to establish it as a venue for cocktails with kind of a speakeasy-like vibe. They indicated they were supportive of local hiring, and they provided some signatures of support. They agreed that if there were any concerns from the community, that they would work with the community. But there were no concerns expressed by any members of the community for this application, and it was approved by a vote of 6-0-0. This is 78 Rockwell Place, which I believe is between Fulton and Lafayette on Rockwell. The third application that we heard is 154 Carlton Avenue, back to the same block as that first application, but on the other side of the block, down near the corner of Myrtle. This is a location known as Taqueria for Greene. They're going to be open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. during the week and 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. on weekends. No outdoor seating. It's a Mexican food establishment. They obtained some signatures of people in the immediate vicinity, and they had not been apprised of any concerns because from their ongoing operation of this location. So based on that, there was a unanimous vote in favor, 6-0-0, and this application was approved. That's all 3 liquor licenses.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions from executive committee members? Any questions from executive committee members on the 3 applications that were presented?
I have a question. Brandon, was there any discussion about that 2 a.m. Closure, even though it's indoors? And is there a possibility that at some point they'd want outdoor, that they'd have room for outdoor seating?
I don't believe there was any discussion that at least not from my memory and not from the committee minutes, about the 2 a.m. closing time. And but the representation was made that there was no outdoor seating.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, Bill Flanoy, the owner of 64 Carlton Avenue, were there ever any complaints on file in regards to the liquor store? Did you hear me?
Yes, I just wanted to check the address. Yeah, 264 Carlton Avenue, the first application that we discussed. There certainly seemed to be a number of members of the community who were concerned about it. We were not apprised of any complaints that had been filed in regards to the liquor store. In terms of, you know, with the authorities or with the board office.
Mr. Pears, can you verify that?
I was not at that meeting. It is my anecdotal understanding that there is seating at this location. As to complaints, I haven't heard any, and I don't believe that Ms. Church is on the call.
Any other questions from executive committee members? Okay, hearing none, unless there's an objection, we'll vote for all of these as all 3 were presented. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the recommendation from the Health, Environment, and Social Service Committee.
I make Mr. Singletary.
I'll second. Betty Fibers.
So the motion has been properly moved by Mr. Jordan, seconded by Ms. Fibrous. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's fine.
I asked that question again because I want to make sure there wasn't background noise. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Thank you. Jessica, we're good?
Yes,
We're good.
All right. Next committee to report is land use. Mr. Gordon.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have 2 items that both were approved by the committee. First one is 295 Cumberland Street in the Fort Greene Historic District. And the application was to remove a existing rear deck and construct a full width, rear yard extension at the garden level and at the rooftop, and also with a rooftop deck and stairs to the rear yard, and modify the side lights at the at the front level, at the side light, and also at the at the where we have it, yes, at the front facade. Now, what happened? Interestingly, what happened as during the presentation, the applicant informed us that the staff of the Landmarks Preservation Commission approved most of the items except for the rear yard, the work at the rear. So most of the stuff was already approved in advance, and the only part that we had to work on was all the work at the rear. What this applicant's trying to do basically is to build out extensions at the rear, I guess, to push it out a little bit to try to get a little bit of addition for the people users to go out. There'll be steps that would go down from, I guess, from the next level garden, I guess, level, going down towards the yard. Our only real concern was basically how much it would affect the neighboring buildings. And the applicant, was the architect, informed us that his clients had already informed the neighboring, I guess, on either side, that the work, is coming. And our one concern was that the work that would be done at the what do we call it? Yes, at the garden level, I guess on the ground level, could affect the houses on either side. They said that they were in the process of getting the information as they were doing it through the buildings department and through the people doing the construct or proposed people doing the construction, and if there's any further work that may affect the neighbors, that they will inform the neighbors of that as well. Otherwise, we like the work that was presented, and we approved it 6-1-3. If there's nothing else, I'll move on to the item, which is 135 Plymouth Street in the Dumbo Neighborhood Historic District. This is an application to put up a sign for the Brooklyn Public Library branch on Adams Street in Dumbo. This is that new little branch that's been built being built by the Brooklyn Public Library to service Dumbo. It'll be two, I guess, sets of signs that would be on the corner. It's at the corner of John Street and Adams Street, actually. Although the building is on Plymouth. And it's one of those typical older brick facade Dumbo buildings. On the John Street side, there'll be a small metal lettering for the Brooklyn Public Library. The big one on the Adams Street side is sort of a very modern red and white signage that goes for quite a few feet along the side. It simply says library. It'll encompass a combination of, I guess it'll be painting or decoration on the facade, and also some also using the windows as well, so that the words library, big red and white line, will be seen by everybody. It's not dissimilar to some of these things that you see sometimes at the Museum of Modern Art, those big red and white things that sometimes the artists use. Karen Johnson from Dumbo liked it, and our committee liked it, and we approved it 10-0-0 unanimously.
Thank you, Carlton. Is there any requests from anyone? I'm sorry, are there any questions from anyone on the presentation that was given by Mr. Gordon?
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the Cumberland Street, thanks, Carlton, about the rooftop deck. Is any of that visible from the street?
It'll be, my understanding, it'll be from the rear, so it would not be visible from the street, if I recall correctly. In any case, the rooftops those were already approved by Landmark Preservation Commission.
Oh.
Yeah. The only thing that we wound up approving is that rear work down by the garden level, the ground level at the rear, and the steps that would lead in the interior some steps that are in the interior of the building that would lead towards it, and also there are some steps that are from the exterior and the rear that would take you to the ground or garden level. That was the only part that we are really worried about. Anything else that was already approved by the LPC.
Thank you.
Well,
Are there any additional questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I think I heard you say it was approved 613.
7, 8, 9, yeah.
613 by the committee. So that means 4 people weren't like that happy about it in some way. Can you state what their concerns were?
Again, the notification of the neighbors that the work would be affected. The work that may have some effect with the neighbors.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any additional questions from committee members? Hearing none, is there any objection with taking both items as presented in one vote? I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's presentation by Mr. Gordon.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Mr. Flanoy, second, Ms. Flatbush. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Transportation and Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Julia.
Rob, if you'd like to pull up Downtown Brooklyn Partnerships presentation, I can give the overview of the 11 Hoyt Street streetscape proposal. 11 Hoyt Street is the new development downtown that is, it's a white building skyscraper right next to Macy's. It's located on Hoyt Street, but spanning
Juliet.
Hoyt to Elm, Fulton to Livingston Street. And
Juliet.
oh, sorry. Yes?
Hi, it's Lenny. I hate to interrupt, but you have to give us a moment because Rob wasn't the host. And so Rob needed to be the host in order to present the image. So I think now we have the image on the screen. Just want to give you that background. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Rob, do you want to go to the next page that has the map? Great. So everybody can see the location. Hoyt to Elm, Fulton to Livingston. Go ahead, keep going. We don't have to go through the whole presentation, but maybe you can scroll to the actual streetscape proposal. That would be great. What Downtown Brooklyn Partnership was doing is working with the developer to take the very narrow street sidewalks on Hoyt and Elm, which are currently only 8 feet wide, and increasing them to allow for more pedestrian space as well as streetscape furniture. And they're also adding these very interesting bump outs that you can see here. They're changing the typical geometry of the street to create almost this mini plaza. So they're going to be able to increase the planting and the green space. They're going to be adding seating. You can see the bump outs on both sides of the building, both on Hoyt as well as on Elm Street. And the developer is paying for this through their, because they have to redo the sidewalk with the builder's pavement plan anyway. And Rob, if you could find the color version of this plan, that's nice too. This is great. So they're looking at colored concrete, pigmented concrete, or also different forms of aggregate to create this sort of color gradation on the sidewalk. But they would also put the striping into the street as well, so it would be traffic calming. And it's reducing, it's taking away a parking lane, so it's not taking away a traffic lane. But the parking, they said that was most likely, it was mostly placard parking anyway. And this was approved by the committee unanimously.
Any questions for Juliet on the presentation for 11 Hoyt?
I have a question. It's Jessica. What's the timeline for this?
I believe that the development is already open. So they've already got some of their first TCOs. So it's pending. It's pending approval. So if they can get all of this approved, then they can do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question, Ms. Cullen Chung. So there's traffic on Elm and Hoyt Street. I think, yeah, well, anyway, I think there's a turn in from Fulton, whatever. But it will be enough room for cars, and there'll be no problem with the cars traveling down those two streets because they're not really that big to begin with, and now they're going to be a little smaller.
Yes. Well, Downtown Brooklyn Partnership said that only a parking lane was affected, not a travel lane for the cars. But certainly the cars would be slowed by this extension, I think.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing for this very pedestrian area of Brooklyn. But it is the traffic that does go through there, which is really just kind of bypassing Fulton, you know,
Right.
kind of going through Fulton. It does get clogged up.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Singletary, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
And mine is related to Mr. Jordan's. You know, many cyclists use the busway as a east-west cycling route. And there's a bike route on Hoyt Street that begins at Livingston or Skimmerhorn, I forget which. And so people use Hoyt on their bikes to get from Fulton to where the bike lane begins. My concern is, as I said, is similar to Mr. Jordan's, that cyclists are going to get squeezed by the bulb outs. Was there any discussion at the committee about that?
There was no discussion, but that's a good point, Robin. Maybe we can bring that up to Downtown Brooklyn Partnership too.
Yeah, hi, this is Bill Flinoy. I actually live on Hoyt Street, so I figure I'll get some input here. As far as the street itself on Hoyt, it is narrow, but currently right now there's construction on there. And there is still cars that get by fairly easily, and the bikes get along well also. As far as the actual design itself, I totally look forward to seeing that because it's almost similar to what's going on right now at Hoyt and Skirmerhorn. So I think this would be an addition to the community, and we could use a few more places to actually sit, okay, and actually have some more greenway because we lost a lot of greenway over the past couple of years. So I definitely agree with this, and I would suggest approving it.
I have a question.
Yes, Betty.
Hi. Okay, so my only question is on that schematic, where are the cars that are going into the garage that's part of the development? Are they entering from Livingston or from the side streets?
They will not be entering from Hoyt. They'll be entering from Livingston or Elm.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for the chair? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the presentation from the Public Transportation and Public Safety Committee.
So moved.
I'll second Carl.
Second, Mr. Gordon. Is there, I'm sorry, I haven't done this all night, forgive me, but is there any discussion on the motion? Because we've been asking questions all day, but is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Moving to agenda item number 5, Chairperson's report. So there's a few things I want to comment on. Number one, I want to thank everyone for their participation during our last time we met, where we talked about really the budget but more importantly, you know, an open discussion about diversity and inclusion and how we can be active participants in our respective community, but more importantly, to show that Community Board 2 is not afraid to take on the items and the topics that are most important and prevalent to our community. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. I thought it was enlightening. And to be honest with you, I came away from the conversation more refreshed than I was going into it, just based on the questions and the comments that everyone put together. And I want to take a moment to not really single anyone out, but I wanted to give a special thank you to Juliet, because she and I had so many offline conversations that helped foster the thought and the discussion. And I want to thank her as one of the trusted partners of the executive committee to help lead us in that direction. So I want to thank everyone, but a special shout out to Juliet. So thank you for that. The second item I want to report is, it's taken us a long time. You can't see you may not be able to see my hands as I try to hug the entire office that I'm in, but it's taken us a long time to get a functional working office of full complementary staff. It seems like when we get to hire someone, then someone takes another opportunity, and then we've had some turnover for a while. But for the first time in a very long time, we have actually 4 members in our office. And I've had the opportunity to engage with them as probably more often than I would pre-COVID, because we've taken advantage of technology. And so I've had the opportunity to participate on a couple of staff meetings with the office. Rob and I have engaged on a more frequent basis. And I will tell you that, in my estimation, our office is functioning quite well, albeit remotely. So there are clearly some things that we need to enhance, particularly for those who may, from time to time, not get the full personal response that you would get in the past when 4 people were sitting in the office. But I would honestly say, from my purview, there's been no real degradation in how we respond to community issues as they come up. Now, I keep in mind, no one is going to be 100% satisfied with the response of the office. I don't care how many people are in it. You could have 100 people and someone would have some advice for improvement. I recognize that. But given where we were, and relatively speaking, I am pleased to say that the office is working in a very cohesive way. I think they're thinking in a very strong and insightful way. And I applaud them. I wanted to take the time to mention that, because that's key as we remain in this pandemic and with no clear outcome for how this is going to be solution for. It's probably safe to say that we're going to go through this for the remainder of the year. And so I wanted to take a moment to thank the office and commend them for the hard work that they've shown, and not to, diminish the work of anybody in the office. I do want to take the time to thank Mr. Paris, because he has been coming into the office every day. And if you're looking at your screen now, that's not his apartment, that is the office. And so I want to thank Rob for continually coming in, and I appreciate him for his leadership and for the entire staff and the way they've been able to perform during this pandemic. So Rob, thank you.
You ruled out the possibility I just have terrible taste in furniture?
Yeah, nah, I wasn't gonna put you on HGTV, but I did want people to know that regardless of your taste, that you were definitely not home. So thank you for the taste and the decor. The next thing I wanted to mention is, in our last meeting in March, a motion was made, second, and unanimously approved, that the executive committee, for as long as community boards were remote, would act on behalf of the entire community board. And so what we essentially did was taken our summer policy and extended it. And so in that regard, we have not had a chance to meet with the entire board. What I've asked the office to do is send out an invitation. And on September 9th, if my memory is serving correctly, we will have a general body meeting, because now I think we've had enough experience with the technology. We've engaged enough with various committees and chairs that it's time to have a meeting with our general body. Now, this meeting will not have a formal agenda, because we are going to continue to perform as been governed by the motion and the vote that was put forth, that we act on behalf of the entire board. But I'm calling this more of a wellness check. I do want to touch base with everyone. I want to see how everyone has been doing. I want to inform the entire body what we've done so far. And we may have one agenda item, but if nothing else, I anticipate this to be a relatively short meeting, but definitely a meeting that is needed to take place so that we can possibly hear of items that we may not be aware of that may require our action and our focus as the exec committee. But like I said, more importantly, just to have a wellness and a checkup with the members that make up Community Board 2. So please be on alert for that invitation if you've not already received it. The last item that I have as chairperson is an action that requires a vote of the committee, because the way our information is laid out now, or I should say our bylaws are laid out now, the chair cannot unilaterally make a decision. It requires a vote of the board, and in this case, the exec committee. As part of Mayor de Blasio's attempt to manage the financial shortfall of the city of New York, there have been different departments that have been under consideration for layoffs. And so at a meeting that took place with community boards, OMB has asked if there would be any community boards willing to voluntarily lay off staff. And so given my previous comments about how pleased I've been with the office, and as each of you know, how long it's taken us to get to a staff that works cohesively as this office is working now, I, as the chairperson, am not inclined to take part in a voluntary layoff. I understand the issues that are affecting the city. I do not want to be mayor now, ever, but particularly not now. And so I know those are tough times. But that being said, this is a decision that requires a vote. And so what I'd like to do is entertain a motion that would support Community Board 2 making a decision to not voluntarily lay off staff at this time.
I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Singletary.
I'll second Carlton.
So it's moved by Mr. Jordan, second by Mr. Gordon. So Jordan and Gordon. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I had a technical problem with my computer, so I didn't hear your discussion. Could you just quickly?
So the motion was to get the approval of the entire exec committee acting on behalf of Community Board 2 to not voluntarily lay off staff, given that we've just gotten this group together and they're working well.
We've been asked to lay off somebody, or do you anticipate that?
So the OMB has asked community boards to voluntarily lay off staff. And so my recommendation is that we don't voluntarily lay off anyone at this time.
Thank you.
Like to say something? It's Irene.
Sure, Irene.
I think when you look at the city's overall budget, community boards are so underfunded to begin with that it's a disgrace to ask us who represent the community, about the only place where the community has any kind of say, it's disgraceful to ask us to cut.
Thank you, Irene. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Thank you for your support, and I think the office thanks you for the support as well. Listen, let's be real about this. It may come a point where voluntarily is no longer an option, but as long as it is voluntarily an option, this is our position. So that concludes the chairperson's report. I'll turn it over to item number 6, which is the district manager's report.
Mr. Singletary, I want to thank you personally for the nice things you said, but I also want to share with you, lots of people are experiencing a weird work environment, and that's certainly true for the district office as well. I'm currently on 3 different platforms simultaneously, and I notice on Teams it says LS saying all the nice things about us, and then there's a heart emoji. So not just thanks from me, but thanks for the whole staff for the kind words. District manager's report, I hope to have that finalized before the September general meeting that you announced. And then as you and I have discussed, we'll probably change the format of that, make it more of a summary, more of a team effort, and hope to get those out more frequently.
Thanks, Rob. Just to give a little context to Rob's last statement, what Rob and I have discussing, and it's really more of just he and I both brainstorming on how we can better utilize the district manager's report, is what I've learned from the staff meetings is that Rob has managed the team in a way that each of the 4 members who make up the district office have a focus on a different assignment. And I think to want to try something different, a way to kind of communicate to everyone what each person is working on and to be mindful of all the work that's taking place now. I asked Rob if we could try actually I shouldn't say I asked, we agreed that we would try a different approach that would summarize what's being done, but give really credit to the individual colleagues in the office and have their names assigned to the work that's being done, so that the perception of just managing or liaising for a committee meeting is not really accurate of all the work that's taking place. And so Mr. Paris and I agreed that we would take that approach. So that's a little context for what Rob's last statement was. So now we're up to item number 7. Does anyone have any other business or anything that you'd like to discuss that wasn't covered in tonight's meeting? And that is for executive committee members only.
This is Juliet. Could I share something?
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to give an update on the rest of our committee meeting for transportation and public safety. We continued the discussion, Chair Singletary, that you had started, and we continued it in the framework of our statement of district needs with an eye to social justice and criminal justice. Rob, thank you for getting us the speaker, Mr. Brandon Holmes, and thank you to Brandon Smith, who was able to speak to us about his experience in the community courts. Both Brandon Holmes and Brandon Smith brought really invaluable experience to the table to help us come up with very concrete recommendations that we'll be presenting in the fall for the Statement of District Needs and Budget Priorities.
Music to my ears. I'm glad that we're taking that conversation and keep giving life to it in a way that really is tangible, and that it's not something that we're doing in an abstract way. I think the way to lead is more through action than words. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I had a question. I was wondering what consideration is being given to, if not the September meeting, general meeting, the meetings thereafter, about having the whole board vote on things rather than just the executive committee.
Barbara, I have a short answer for you, is none at this time. Given the way we have to meet, given the things that we're still learning through technology, I'm intentionally being deliberate about taking baby steps. And so I want to see how the September meeting goes, which will be a strong factor in how we proceed going forward.
That makes sense. Thanks.
All right, you're welcome.
Since you think you characterize the September meeting as a wellness check, I just wanted to ask, as far as you know, all board members, committee members at this time are in good health. There's nobody has caught anything bad or been hospitalized or whatever, as far as you know.
So from a perspective of being optimistic, prayerful, I'm going with the old adage of no news is good news. I have not heard that anything has happened to anyone, although I can't say for certainty that, that is the case. We do have some board members who don't always socialize with other board members until we meet as a group, as a whole. So it is possible that individuals may have overcome COVID and now they're in good health, or that, and I hope I'm wrong, although the alternative could be the case. at this point, I'm going to stick with my original comment that no news is good news, and I believe that everyone is in good health.
Thanks.
Thanks for asking that question, though. That's important. Any other questions? Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is community forum. And so for those who may be new to community board, if you happen to be a non-member of the executive committee, and if you have questions or if you have a particular item that you want to bring to our attention, this is the opportunity to do so. I will remind those who have been a part of this before, but introduce to those who may be new, that this is done on a 2-minute time limit. So in the event that you would like to ask a question, or if you have something you want to communicate, that you would send a chat through the chat button that it should be at the bottom of your screen. You would identify yourself. I would then ask the district manager or one of the representatives from our office to call your name. And then upon being acknowledged, you would have 2 minutes to have the floor. And so with that, I'll open it up to item number 8, which is community forum. And listen, I want to be fair here. I'm not trying to rush through this, but don't feel offended if you don't really have anything to say. If you don't have anything to say, we love you the same. But I do want to be, mindful of the rules of the city of New York and of the state. And once again, I'll ask, are there any comments on community forum?
There are still no hands raised, Mr. Singletary.
So as excited as I am, and I'm trying to trepidate my excitement, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
All right. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing everyone on September 9th. Be safe. Continue to be in good health. Practice social distancing. Wear your mask. Take as much vitamin C, zinc, anything you can take, and continue to enjoy the rest of the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a blessed night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Yeah.
Right.
Stay
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.